Dear colleagues, CBRE Talks for you again, bringing new inspiring topics with the same passion, energy and courage by well-known serial speakers as well as brand new first-time talkers, this time completely virtually. This time we don't have a stage. This year we're gonna invite you to the rooftop. And the first person getting to the rooftop is Marta Tomaszewska. Marta will invite you for e-traveling. So seeing different corners of the world independently from Google Maps and Street View is something she proposes to you. Even more, meeting people around the corner, around the globe, is something that she is focused on. Let's listen to Marta.
Hello everyone, my name is Marta Tomaszewska. Let me bring your attention to the current situation. Nowadays, when almost everything is closed and many activities are limited, you can still do many things without going out. That's why I would like to share my passion with you. But before I do that, I would like to show you one scene from the famous Polish movie Dzień Świra, The Day of the Freak. Have you ever experienced the same situation? Have you ever found many useless leaflets in your mailbox? The main character says, I don't have time to reply to my correspondence. I got letters from Rossmann, Pizza Hut, but actually it doesn't have to look like that. You can find in your mailbox something more interesting, and this thing is a postcard. And the project I would like to tell you about is called Postcrossing. What is that? It is a website which allows you to send and receive real postcards from random members from around the world. And how does it work? The first thing you need to do is to create an account on postcrossing.com. Then you just need to request an address. After that, you write the postcard and send it. After some time, the postcard arrives to the receiver, and the last thing you need to do is just to wait for a postcard. Why is postcrossing that amazing? So first of all, you can discover full mailbox, but not full of useless advertisements. You can find there beautiful postcards. And what is amazing is that someone who doesn't even know you tries to make you happy, tries to find something interesting for you. And instead of finding many useless leaflets, you can open your mailbox and find beautiful postcards. It is always a surprise what you will get, because you don't know from whom and from which country you will receive a postcard. So the next great thing is that you can make someone happy. You can be more creative, you can decorate your postcards, you can write something interesting there. And when I receive such messages like presented in the picture, I know that someone appreciated my effort. And if you would like to feel the same, I definitely recommend you to create an account there. And I cannot even decide what is better, to make someone happy or to make myself happy, because received postcard also can make you happy. As you can see in the picture, you may notice that someone put much love into postcards. You can see these beautiful decorations, stickers, stamps. You can read an interesting message. You can see that someone wanted to share his thoughts with you. And the next thing is educational value. You can learn new things, you can discover other cultures, you can learn something new about history, for instance. You can find holiday destination, you can get inspiration. I can give you even an example. My friend wanted to open a shop with wooden accessories, and he didn't have any idea how to call this shop. And one day he saw a postcard from New Zealand, from a small town called Woodville, and here was the name for the shop. And the next great thing about this project is that you can meet new people, because an interesting hobby connects people. You can go to a meeting organized by postcrossers, you can sit with them, write postcards and send them. I know even a couple who met on one meeting in Warsaw and they are still together. So if you need a friend or even love, you can try to find a new hobby and go to a meeting organized by people who share the same hobby with you. As I said before, nowadays many activities are limited. Traveling, meeting new people is more complicated, sometimes even impossible. But thanks to this old way of contact in a new reality, you can, even if you cannot travel, you can still invite the world to your home. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. Exciting story. Thank you for sharing. The next person getting on the rooftop is Artur Dzięcioł. So, if you have anything big to achieve this year, or maybe you are a bit frustrated with New Year's resolutions that face brutal reality, this is something for you. Artur will help you achieve your goals this year. Artur, welcome on the rooftop.
Last Monday marks the Blue Monday. It is the day when all of our New Year's resolutions failed. Is that true for you? Because, well, for me, sort of is. Unfortunately, I've been planning to do many things in 2020, 2021, and truth be told, I should be slimmer, I should be more fit, I should be smarter, and I should have read far more books. Already in 2017? Yes, but actually, why do our goals fail? Why do we plan it over and over and over again, and yet we still not manage to do it at all? Well, there are some things we should consider when planning our things, and there are things we should consider when thinking about what causes those things to fail. Well, thank you for coming to this presentation, because this is the topic of it. It's the slight edge, a secret of doing small things every day. Well, okay, so what is this slight edge? You might ask me. Well, I will tell you. In my presentation, I'm going to tell you about 3 things. First, I will tell you about what isn't there for you and why you should try this technique and why should you try to implement it in your own life. Then I will tell you about those small things that make a big difference. You might not know it right now, but truth be told, after this presentation, I hope, you will be able to detect those things and find the things that really matter. And lastly, I will tell you about what is it, this slight edge technique, from the definition, who invented it, and how I implemented it in my own life, even though not all of my goals succeeded. Okay, so let's start with a can of Coke. Probably most of you have already tried to lose weight, including me, but it wasn't so easy. Okay, so let's move to this can of Coke. It's small, it's easy thing to do, so it's easy to grab it on the go during the lunch. It's easy to grab it when you're working from home and you deserve a small gratitude, isn't it, right? But it's also an easy thing not to do. It's easy to replace it with something like water, coffee, tea, whatever you like. And the bottom line is that it's not a big deal and it won't influence your diet life, right? Yeah, so let's move to something bigger. The mighty Big Mac set. Wow, it's big, isn't it? Okay, so I have to admit that I'm a huge fan of McDonald's, even though it's not the most tasty type of fast food. It's not most tasty type of burger, but I really love to grab a Big Mac set and have a small cheat meal, especially when I'm on a diet, right? So if you're on a diet, that's a no-go zone, right? You will never actually devote yourself to go for a diet, and in the same time plan to do like a cheat meal like that, right? A cheat meal can be a small chocolate bar, a small candy, but not like a big Big Mac, isn't it? But let's sum up. Like, it's a not easy thing to do because you have to plan it, you have to go out, or you have to order it, and it's really big. So you have to replace a full meal with the Big Mac. It's also a not easy thing not to do, right? So whenever your friend gives you one, then it's really hard to say no, right? So it's a really big thing to consider. Okay, but let's do the numbers. Let's try to calculate how much each of those things can affect your life. So one Big Mac, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9.5 cans of cola, right? So what's in that for you? Well, it basically means that every time you say no to the can of Coke, if you repeat this thing 9.5 times, it's just like if you said no to a huge Big Mac set. Let us sit in. Okay, so does it really mean that by not drinking cola for, let's say, 9 days, I will be able to go for a Big Mac set and then have the same amount of calories? Yes, exactly. That's it. And this is this whole secret of Slight Edge. It's a secret of doing small things every day that build up over time and deliver a huge thing in the end. So what is this Slight Edge? Well, it's a book written by Jeff Olson. It's a really popular book. You can check it out on Amazon. I haven't seen it in any Polish website, so you can check it out online, but I'm sure you will find it. And you can find lots of movies on YouTube or anywhere else on the internet explaining the technique in a short manner. But let's move to my story, actually. My story actually started with a dirty cup of coffee. Oh, let's say a lot of them. There were a lot of dirty cups of coffee on my desk. And because I'm not a very, okay, I have to admit, I'm quite a lazy person. So I don't really like to clean my things up very quickly. But I also don't like to devote myself for doing something big, like, okay, let's tidy up the whole room. Well, it takes too much time. It takes too much effort. I'll do it tomorrow, or maybe next week, or maybe next month, right? Yeah, but you have to do something, right? So at that time, I didn't know it, but I was using the Slight Edge technique. I was slowly and surely removing 1 cup of coffee at a time. Every time I left the room, for example, to the bathroom or to the kitchen or wherever else, I took 1 cup with me and I put it in the sink and washed it. It's like not a big deal, right? It doesn't take a lot of time, and yeah, it's a thing you can easily do. And guess what? This is exactly how I started using this technique, because after like 3 or 4 days, my whole desk was clean, and I was like, oh my God, how could this happen, right? And why can't I implement this technique in another parts of my life, like studying, like thinking about my hobbies, like even, I don't know, meeting my friends and taking care of the relations with them. So if you take a look at the curve, then it's growing exponentially. in the beginning, long time, you won't see any effects of your things, of the things you're doing. But at some point, you will see that it starts bringing an effect to your life. So these cups of coffee, let's say it was quite a quick win, but with your diet, this will also start giving the effect in the long term, right? So in terms of me, I was trying to lose weight. Around July, I was 78 kilos, and I thought to myself, I really need to lose weight, right? So I was thinking that, okay, so what can I do? I can go for a diet. I can give up on drinking any beer because I love it. I can give up on eating my Big Mac set. I can give up on eating sweets, but actually none of it sounded really good, right? Especially if I had to do it for a long period of time. So guess what? I got my slide edge technique, and I came up with a solution. So I'm not a morning person. I hate getting up in the mornings, but I'm working, so I have to, right? So why not make this morning a little bit more unpleasant, but that wouldn't make a huge difference for me. So I changed my normal breakfast from huge scrambled eggs with bacon and a lot of pieces of bread with butter to just like a porridge with not very much of porridge in it and just milk. So it tasted basically like cardboard. But actually this had just over like 100 calories, and that made me save 300 or 400 calories every morning by changing this breakfast, and allowed me to allow myself for drinking, for eating sweets during the weekend. Of course, in not a big manner, but still, I was able to enjoy my life and still keep on losing weight very, very slowly. Okay, so to sum up, slide edge is a technique that allows you to do small things that gradually grow over time and let you achieve your goals faster, easier. Okay, maybe not faster, but easier, right? So if you try it, there will be no more Blue Mondays for you. And whether you think you can or cannot, you're right. Thank you very much.
Artur, thank you. Amazing story. I'm sure I will be more effective and efficient in achieving my goals. The next person landing on the rooftop is Piotr Habrowski. Piotr will tell you about the mind and heart. So if you are interested to see what is the impact a big heart can make on your educational journey, listen carefully. Piotr, welcome on the roof.
Do you know why this classroom is empty? Many of you may think that it's because of COVID. Not in this case. Here, the problem is money. Many African kids cannot afford cost of their education. The only option for them is to work hard in agriculture or in the industry. Can we change that? Can we make sure that African classrooms are full of kids, full of their passion and dreams? Yes, we can. Today I'm going to tell you a story of Fanny Ree, and she was lucky because she found a person who was eager to cover costs of her education, hot meals, uniform, transport, and everything that she needed to make sure that she's going to school every day. She now has friends, she's reading books, she even teaches her colleagues. Have you noticed on this postcard that it's written in Polish? Yes, because this initiative originated in Poland. A few months ago, I met a colleague from my university, and he told me, look, there is this initiative. First of all, I was surprised. Wow, what a great idea. But then I thought, well, it's very expensive. Who can cover costs of education? Then he told me, well, it's just 75 zlotys. 75 zlotys? It's possible just to save a little bit from my everyday spending, maybe spend a little bit less on chocolate, maybe on hamburgers, and I can save the 75 zlotys. And actually this person was me. So I would like to encourage every of you from our CBR community, from your families, but also outside our company, to also join this program and cover costs of education of one African children. There are many of them who look for support. If you are interested, then please let you know, and I will contact you to the right person, or go directly to the website of the foundation, which manages this program. Thank you very much.
Piotr, thank you so much for sharing this touchy story. I want to be a part of this educational challenge in Madagascar, definitely. The next person joining us on the rooftop is Zofia Gatkowska-Mistasz. And Zofia will share details of an exciting story. Do you know there's a common denominator between crushed chips, medical examination in hospital, and product redesign? If not, listen to her story.
Hi guys, nice to have you here on CBRE Talks. As Arthur mentioned before in his speech, little steps goes a long way. So maybe we can just have some chips on weekend time. Imagine you are in the cinema. Somebody behind you is sitting and opening the package of chips. What do you hear? What image is in your mind? Okay, you are annoyed, irritated because of the sound of the package opening and the crushed chips. Yeah, the chips are crushed, but what can we do to avoid it? So there's one producer who take the voice of the customers very seriously. It's Pringles. They invented a mathematic formula for the shape of the chips. Okay, so you can see that the package is different from the standard chips, and also the invention of mathematicians and engineers is very, very nice. Okay, so you can see my topic. Sorry, I forgot, because there's New Year's resolutions, and I said no to the chips, so bye-bye chips. As you can see, my topic is what crushed chips, fear of medical procedure and product redesign have in common. I would like to take you on some small travel around the world. Maybe not so around the world because it's New Zealand and United States, but let's begin with the United States. So there is this magnetic resonance imaging. In the abbreviation is MRI. Imagine that you are a small kid waiting for the test in the hospital. You are afraid because you are the second time in the hospital. The walls are white and you don't know the doctors because it's only the second time. And you need to go to this MRI machine, and it's very, very frightening for you. What to do? So there was an engineer who thought that his machine is very, very modern and really nice. But after seeing how the children are afraid in the hospital, he thought that something is wrong, because 80% of children before the procedure needs sedatives. Okay, so what he invented was the stickers, which resembles a pirate ship. And all the room is also painted in such bright colors for the children. It's very nice. And they are not so afraid because the medical staff has all scenario, what to do, how to address to the children when they are laying on the MRI machine. Okay, so that was USA. Now let's go to the New Zealand. Okay, the land of Hobbit, you can imagine that it's very, very beautiful. But they had some issue some times ago because there was a very big number of accidents caused by young drivers. Okay, so they changed the law, but the law has a bright and dark side. In bright side, the number of accidents decreased slightly, but the dark side was that the people from Maori and Asian heritage were excluded from this driving preparation and so on because they can afford it. They don't have so much money for it. So in the ordinary country, the law just stays, but New Zealand is different. So they brainstormed, they created some solution for it, And it was engagement of the local community and police who were mentoring the drivers and the car producer and fuel station provided the cars and fuel. Okay, now back to the USA. Okay, we are in the classroom. We are back to school. What can you see? In the standard ordinary, you can thought about your school, how it looks like. Okay, you can see desks, chairs, and so on. For me, what was the most irritating, of course, homeworks and so on, but what was irritating for me was the backpacks, which were always on the floor, and they get dirty. So I was very upset about that. And there's a company in the States who was thinking how to avoid this kind of situation and make students' life easier. So they took on their sketch the design of the chair, redesigning the chair. So as you can see on the picture of the right, the guy has a new designed chair which has wheels, which have a shelf for the backpack and also has a small desk. So new chairs are very mobile, your backpacks don't get dirty, and you can arrange easily the area of the classroom. Okay, maybe you know what I'm talking about. It is design thinking. What is design thinking, you can ask? It's a project management method who takes human needs in the center of interest. It has also multidisciplinary teams. It answering to the real needs of users and, of course, solving wicked problems. Let's have some small, maybe not so boring theory about the design thinking. Okay, so we've got 5 phases. First is empathize. So we need to know for whom we are taking this opportunity to make improvements. So our users, customers. Then we've got the define. It is when we challenge ourselves and, for example, new service is needed. So we need to know what exactly we need to improve. Then the third part is ideate. So after define, we need to have a brainstorm. We need to have, we need to create some solutions and so on. After that, there's a very important phase, prototype. So we are doing the prototype of our solution. It could be done as a physical one, so from cardboard. It could be in the application on mobile. So our users can test. So the last phase is test. About the testing, it is also very important because after the product is given to the natural environment, so to the final users, we can receive the feedback. It is very, very important for us to have it feedback from users. So sometimes we can go to the previous stage to prototype and we improve our prototype and get to the tested again. So it is very important. Okay, but what about ourselves? What we can do as people, just ordinary people? Okay, so first, let's put yourself in the center of interest. What can you do better? You can be a designer of innovation, even for small things, like, for example, folding clothes before your next day. It could really get you started. And the last thing, what can design thinking improve in the CBRE? So, first of all, I need to underline this. We've got a really diverse team, so the people are the key to the success. Then we as a company and organization looking for the innovation and improvements. So this is also one of the aspects of design thinking. Then we need to take our customer in the center of our interest. After that, we can solve our wicked problems. So what do you think? Can we be a really design thinking company? So guys, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Zofia. I agree. Design thinking has a bright future. The next person joining us on the rooftop is Joanna Ilczuk. And Joanna will tell us how creative is the creator and connecting pianola with Bluetooth, we'll explain you why the statement is true. Jana, roof is yours.
What pianola has to do with the Bluetooth? Before I go to explain you this with more details, I would like to ask you if you know what pianola is. Pianola is a kind of blend between the music box, like this one, and the big piano. So imagine the piano, you plug it in, and the piano plays by itself. I would like to introduce you to the person who inspired me to this talk. Ladies and gentlemen, Hedy Lamarr. She was a Hollywood actress, and she was considered as the most beautiful woman in the world. But Hedy Lamarr was just much more than a pretty face. She had a natural mathematical talent and lifelong love for tinkering with ideas for inventions. Her idea how to encrypt the radio message by frequency hopping is her contributions to the wire-free connections used today in many of our appliances like phones, cell phones or Bluetooth and etc. So I was studying Hedy's biography and I'm just wondering, but what is the creativity? Because comparing to the animals, yeah, there's something with humans that we've got this thing. So if you compare the animals' environment and the human ones, let's see what happened. In this picture we can see the bird's nest. The bird's nest 800 years ago. Then we can see another bird's nest 400 years ago. And we can see the bird's nest from today. And there's no difference. But let's see the human environment. In this picture you can see a wooden building built probably 800 years ago. And then in the same place, some buildings built 400 years ago. We can see just not wooden house, but this time houses made of brick. And houses made today in a modern city. Beautiful house made out of glass. Can we see the difference? Yes. The propeller for these changes is the human creativity. And next question, but why? Why human being is so creative? And the answer is in human brain. Now let's see another picture. In this picture we can see the human brain and an animal brain. I marked with a green color the zone responsible for input, and mark with pink color the zone in brain responsible for output. And now let me explain what is input and output. Input is all the information coming to our brain from the outside world, like sounds, views, etc. And output is just a reaction for these sounds or any inputs. So what's happened in the animal's brain? We can see that these two zones are very close to each other. And what does it mean? That means if the impulse comes to the animal brain, the reaction is almost immediately. Imagine that bird seeing a danger. So the bird can or just fly away or attack. And let's see what happened in the human brain. We can see that those two zones are very far one from another. And what does it mean? That means that the neuronal impulse from the input has to go through the billion neuronal connections. And what does it mean in a behavior? Imagine you, for example, seeing an angry face close to you. You don't have to run away immediately, or you don't have to attack or punch this person. You can choose immense number of reactions. And this is our advantage. And now let's focus on creativity. Scientists like to divide everything into the pieces, so creativity was also divided into 3 stages. The first is bending, the second is breaking, and the third one is blending. 3B, but still doesn't say us anything. So let's invite Hedy Lamarr and her idea, and I'll try to explain you what does it mean, what each phase means. So during the Second War, Hedy was worried that the ships with the European immigrants going to USA were the easy target to be bombarded. German submarines easily catch the ship's radio communications. So Hedy wanted to, first of all, she took the radio communication as an object, but she wanted to see this from a different angle. So she bent the idea. Then, finally, eventually, our pianola comes to the scene. So Hedy took a second object, pianola, and she broke it. She needed just one piece of pianola. I mean, this rolls inside. So finally, Hedy blended these two elements, the radio broadcaster with this pianola roll. And okay, her idea was just to send out the radio messages, changing constantly the frequency. Creativity is a part of our daily life, and it's present in all our activities, in science, in technology, architecture, and etc., and long list of etceteras. We don't have time to even mention all of them. But first, to my mind, hearing the word creativity comes the art. So let me just bring two examples from the art. And ladies and gentlemen, let's invite Pablo Picasso. The same time when Hedy invented her invention, Pablo Picasso invented a new style in art, Cubism. So he took the classical perspective, he bent this idea. I think artists were just bored with, painting the same way like during the Renaissance. And he just took the three-dimensional object, cut it, each piece, and then finally blend them together and show all these pieces together in one picture. For example, imagine that Pablo Picasso is painting now my picture, my portrait. So first he paints maybe my left profile, then he takes my face and then the right profile, and all these pictures melt together, blend together, and the effect is like this. Before I go to the second example, I would like to ask you if you could ask me the question: if you can find something really absolutely original, that means something which wasn't based of anything existing before, I can give you $1,000 if you find me think like this. Okay, I don't have any money in my pocket, but I'm pretty sure that you won't find something like this. So let me go ahead with my examples with music. So first, let's go to salsa. The main salsa meaning Spanish sauce, but for me it's more like a tasty cocktail of many musical styles coming from the Central America, from the South America, and they are mixed together with the Northern American black jazz musicians. And all this tasty mixture was well shaked and blended in New York nightclubs in the 60s. And another music style, flamenco. In this picture you can see typical flamenco group. You can see the guitar and the man playing the kind of drum, the wooden box called cajon. But maybe you don't know that cajon is relatively new in flamenco. It was brought by Paco de Lucia from Peru in 1977. In Peru, Paco de Lucia saw Peru's musicians playing that instrument, and he thought it's a good idea to bring it to flamenco. But of course, cajon in Peru wasn't anything new. It was brought by African slaves from Africa maybe 300 years before. We can create not only the objects or ideas, we are able to create our lives. Using the creativity as a therapy, we can work out our traumatic experiences or those painful ones. We can work them out and transform them into a piece of art. So we can not only heal our life, but we can also inspire others. I can give you the example. Here you can see Dariusz Jeż. In his past life, he was a gangster and spent some years in the prison. But since he met the dramatic art, he became a successful actor, and now he tells his life story from the theater scene. And the last question for you. What to do to be creative? And I think you don't have to do anything. I can bet the same $1,000 that you have to do anything. Why? Because probably you are already creative. Just have a look at these tips below and think. I'm sure that you constantly are looking for the new inspiration in your daily life, in every situation, reading books, watching films, meeting people, exchanging the ideas, learning new skills, trying new things. Am I right? I'm so sure that you're constantly extending your own limits, getting out from your comfort zone. And some of you, I'm sure that you literally you left your own countries and you moved to Poland. I'm very sure that in many occasions you have decided to leave the comfort zone with assuming the risk, and then you're not afraid of the failure. To conclude this talk, I would like to share with you my wish that you would never ever lose the precious space for our creativity.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Yes, the creator is so creative. Next speaker, landing on the rooftop, it's Gabriela Dąbrowska. And Gabriela will tell us a story about languages, namely foreign languages, that it brings much, much more than just ability to communicate and express your thoughts. Foreign language can transform your life. How? Let's listen to Gabriela. Roof is yours.
Language is a tool we use every day, but do we think so much about it? I think we don't, and there is a huge value behind them. I have always been a fan of languages. They have always been somewhere around me. And when I've started using some, for example, I speak Swedish, I have noticed that my behavior has changed. And also people around me started to behave differently. And what is it actually to learn a language? You can think that it's a rocket science, right? It takes so much time. But well, you don't actually need that much words to be able to communicate it and to learn something that they might give you. I want you to do the task I have prepared. Here you can see different definitions of culture. I want you, they come from different language versions. So I want you to guess which language they are. I know it can be a bit hard. I am aware of this, but to make this task a bit easier, I have underlined some phrases that can be helpful for you. Yeah, so let's start this. The first one, what do you think? Yeah, these of you who thought that it is English, you are right. This is the English version. Then the second one. This is German. All right, yeah. So, but what about the third one? It's a bit different. That might be a hint for you. It is Hawaii language, okay? Yeah, so a language, what is a language? It's a system, it's a logical system of signs and rules. So it's a completely new story for you. It's a new journey. You have signs and rules you have to learn. Okay, but how is your brain about a new language? Well, it's a serious workout for it. It's like going to a gym. Imagine when you go to the gym, you, for example, might want to be a king of a beach, and it's the same as when it happens when your brain is actually working out. So it means that the processes in your brain get enhanced. The connections work smoother, and you have better focus, better memory, and so on. But how is that possible? This is due to the fact that the brain has a unique feature that is called neuroplasticity. And due to this neuroplasticity, your brain can create new connections. These are neural circuits, and they can change their structures. How beautiful is that? You can learn new things, and by this neuroplasticity, you can make your brain stronger and younger. So these examples that I have presented, I would like to show on some languages, right? So as I said, I speak Swedish, and this is my 5th year that I'm using it. And I have observed 4 common areas that are very specific to it. Here they are. It is as a way to ask questions. You have to be very mild in asking questions and also respectful. For example, they have common phrases, fast phrases, that sound if you translate them literally, it means, do you want to do this? And would you be so sweet, so kind to do something for me? These are beautiful. Then we have some commercial words. I know they are a bit commercial. They were like different books about hygge, for example, the Danish hygge. You might have heard of them. Well, I agree with you. These might sound a bit, cliché. But when I have used them, I have observed that the more you use them, you start to notice these kind of feelings of coziness and, I don't know, your mug of coffee with your on the bed, and you start also to notice the beautiful moments with your friends. These can be different situations, not only, as I said, watching TV on your couch. So these are different, and you start to notice these tiny little situations that actually can make us happy. But you have to be careful about this because they are commonly used in marketing, right? So in marketing, you might think that you need this special pillow, this animal pillow, in your house or in your flat just to cozy yourself. Be careful. Another thing that I have started to pay attention to are social rules. You have to be very aware of them if you want to communicate. If you want to communicate well, if you want to be understood by the native speakers. So In Swedish and also the Scandinavian languages, there is a rule of jante. And it means that you don't want to be too ambitious, or you don't want to put yourself in a light of strong and better and generally shining person. No. Swedes and other Scandinavian cultures show themselves as collectivists. So you actually want to sometimes show that you are like them, or even as I show you on the slide, you want to a bit underestimate yourself. But always keeping your self-esteem, of course. I don't want to show you that you have to be worse, but you want to be humble, okay? And this can be, for example, that you say, oh, sorry, so maybe my idea was a bit stupid, or I just didn't think it through. My colleague might know it better. For example, if you forward something to some other person, my colleague will be better at this. And some other part of these languages are a specific system of compliments. Have you actually ever thought about the physiology of compliments? Well, maybe not, maybe yes, but these compliments they also have a certain impact on your brain, because they activate your reward system. So your body produces hormones like serotonin, dopamine, but also oxytocin, which is powerful tool for you if you want to have good relations at work and so on. So these are the compliments that Swedish people use. I really like the last one. It says that you're unbreakable. So just as the picture you see, you're like a cliff. You are unbreakable. You always succeed. You can also think that well, what are the other languages, right? So this is just Swedish, but I want to show you different examples of other languages. You have a German example here, and also a Polish one, Italian and Spanish. So you can look at them and see what is the value behind these certain thoughts that are behind them. So I want you to think about what I said. I showed you that our language is a system of certain rules and signs, and also your brain is plastic. So you can really use this ability to be a better person. And I think that this is interesting, that languages have other value behind themselves. So these are not just words and phrases. This is a powerful value. I want you to be inspired by these values. I want you to explore different spaces and hooks of these cultures that are around us. And maybe if you have found some time, you can email me your ideas about your native language, or maybe a language that you learn, of these transfers that actually show us the cultural influences. So I am waiting to see you next year with maybe another language, maybe exploring another culture, and noticing this value that is behind our languages. Thank you.
Gabriela, grazie mille. Definitely foreign language brings much more than just communication. So the next person, Maciej, landing already on the rooftop, will explain you how to fast your mind. Yes, this is about limiting your consumption, but in a different way. Did you ever think what you consume by your mind? If not, take a moment and reflect how you can put a diet for your brain. Maciej, proof is yours.
Hello everybody. I am very happy to be a speaker during CBRE Talks again, and that would be a 5th time in a row. Today I will briefly explain you what is mind fasting and how you can easily implement some mind fasting techniques into your daily life so that to improve your well-being and mental health. My presentation is being inspired by a book I recently read, Fasting Your Mind, written by Jason Gregory. The book explains in details what is mind fasting, together with its historical and philosophical background. While today I will present you a simplification that can be easily understood by our Western minds. However, I strongly recommend you to read a whole book, since it's very entertaining and informative. You can also visit Jason's website for some more information. But before we will move into the mind fasting techniques, what's the problem? Let's think about it. What's the problem that we have to address? Honestly speaking, we are at war, information war. Constantly we are being attacked by hundreds, if not thousands of information, and every information provider claims his or her information is the most important one. What is really worrying is the fact that these big global companies, they developed very sophisticated techniques to steal our attention so that we would read their information, their news. In a recent documentary, The Social Dilemma, which is available on Netflix, we could learn that even employees of such companies like Facebook, they cannot resist these techniques, despite the fact that they know exactly how it works, since they were participating in developing these techniques. So you may think that this war is already lost, but please don't be afraid, since we have great ancient wisdom at our disposal. This ancient wisdom is with us for thousands of years, and currently it's being restored and available to everybody. And yes, this is including mind fasting techniques. But is this really a problem? Let's take one step back. Maybe this is just another step of human evolution, something we have to adapt to. It might be true, but it doesn't change the fact that being overwhelmed with information, we may end up with anxiety, chronic depression, burnout syndrome, simple headaches, or other mental problems. And even if that would be another step of human evolution, we have to remember that both body and mind have been evolving over thousands of years in order to adapt to our current lifestyle. But still, the civilization growth in last 100 years was way faster than our body and mind could adapt to, especially last 20 years. Thus, as a result, we are over-exploring our mind and body, same as we do with Earth's natural resources. The solution to this problem is very simple, believe me. It's something that majority of us already did for ourselves in the past, at least once in our lifetime. We did it for our body, and this is a diet. Food diet, a body diet. And when we think about a diet, we can basically split it into two groups. The first one is basically about food selection and or calories intake control, while the other one is generally known as fasting, intermittent fasting, water fasting, and similar. So scientists for many years, decades, they've been providing us with some proofs that the more food you put into your body, or junk food, it's not always good for us. We may end up with some health problems, digestion problem, high blood pressure, low level of energy, or sometimes even terminal diseases. And it works pretty much same for our mind. So if we put too much information or junk information into our nervous system gets overloaded and we may end up with some mental problems. So when we get back to this old famous rule, the more is not always better, it works pretty much same for both body and mind. So getting back to this food diet concept. Food can get inside our body in majority of the cases through our mouth. While when we think about information, it can actually go into our nervous system via 6 channels, as we can see on the chart. And this chart is also known as an eye of an horse. So these 6 channels are 5 senses we have plus thinking. And the fraction next to each sense is representing the percentage, how much of the information by this sense is going into our nervous system. So since we have 6 channels, there are plenty of ways for the information to go inside our brain. And in majority of the cases, it's unconscious. So we are not even aware that we are absorbing such a huge amount of information. And this is why, for example, when we are in a crowded, noisy place, we are getting tired quickly. Because even if we are trying not to pay attention to what's going on around, our brain and nervous system are absorbing all this information. And why exactly we are getting tired? We heard so many times that our brain is such a great machine that can process and store so much data. This is true. However, we have to remember, we are using just small portion of this capacity. We can, of course, increase it, but it requires hard and frequent training. On the other hand, if we want to absorb, process, and store a lot of information into our brain, we have to deeply rely on some natural inner resources we have in our body, in our nervous system. And these are attention, creativeness, motivation, willpower, and some others. These resources can be easily depleted. And if we go into a mode when we are burning the reserves, we will definitely end up being exhausted with some mental problems, and in some extreme cases, with our behavioral patterns being changed to the extent that we cannot control it anymore or even understand it. So, how we can improve the management of these resources, of our mind, how we can have a better control over it. The solution I would like to suggest you today is not a full mind fasting, like Vipassana meditation. Let's start with something simple, something easy, which can be implemented in our daily routine immediately, but still something that can give you quick and nice results. And after some time, if you would see positive changes, and I'm pretty sure you will, then you can dig more, learn more, and implement some more advanced mind fasting techniques. So what are these changes? So first of all, ensure that you have enough of sleep. 7 to 8 hours for your nervous system to restart and restore. I know that it might be difficult for some of you. So if that would be less than 7 hours, please ensure that the sleep is of good quality. So turn off your laptop, screens, switch your mobile to a plane mode around 10 p.m. or at least 1 hour before you go to sleep. What else? Try to keep your life simple. What I mean is, know what is important to you. What are your goals and what you would like to achieve, and just do what is important, necessary in order to achieve it. In other words, please get rid of unnecessary social media, Instagram, Facebook, scanning, reading unnecessary information on the internet. This is just junk information. There is no value in this information for your brain. You have to also ensure that your body have enough movement so that your blood circulation would be good. All your tissues, muscles, and joints would have enough fuel and oxygen to properly function. Last but not least important, you have to also find some time for your nervous system to regenerate. You can simply lie on bed, listening to the music. But what is the most important, you have to minimize the amount of information that are going into your nervous system via these 6 channels. And what will be the final outcome? Let's see at this photo. Would you rather prefer living in the room on the left side or the right side? I'm pretty sure you would like to live in the right one. So why not doing the same with your mind? It's high time to do a major cleanup in your mind, to put everything in order. But you have to remember, it's not like you will do it just once and for all. Once you do a cleanup, you have to develop a proper management for your mind, for your thoughts, so that you could enjoy this nice, clean and tidy area in your mind on a daily basis. And what you have to do? Just do a first step. Just start with the changes I talked about today. Or you can think about of your own, something simple for you. And with these baby steps, I'm pretty sure you will find it satisfying. And it will encourage you to dig into this topic more and explore more the mind fasting concept. Thank you.
Thank you, Maciej. Great inspiration. I already decided my mind must go on a diet. The next person landing on the rooftop is Joanna Bielecka-Zawiślak, and Joanna will tell us about nonviolent communication. So simply, why we should be conscious of being careful what we think, how we behave, and what we feel. Why? Learn more. Joanna, the roof is yours.
What is a famous and serious American psychologist and conflict mediator doing with little puppets? What is he trying to show using a puppet of a giraffe and a jackal? Is he right now making any show for children? Or maybe there is something that we, grown-ups and business professionals, should learn from little puppets. I had all these questions when I saw the clip from Marshall Rosenberg on YouTube. Right now I'm coming back with some answers. So Rosenberg created his theory of communication basing on 4 steps. It is called non-violent communication, and in this sense violence is considered the opposite of empathy and the opposite of compassion. So any sort of communication where you are not very compassionate, you are not very empathic, either towards yourself or towards your speaker, Rosenberg would already consider that violence. And that's why his communication model, nonviolent communication, it is also called empathic communication or compassionate communication. And why was he using Muppets? Because Muppets are the metaphors for different kinds of attitudes that we can bring into any communication situation. And the first Muppet he's using is a giraffe. And giraffe has a very big heart and a very long neck. And thanks to the long neck, a giraffe can have a very broad perspective on different situations. A jackal, however, he is the opposite of a giraffe. So what is the language of a giraffe? The language of a giraffe is based on compassion, empathy, and a big heart, and also a broad perspective. And Rosenberg had a belief that every single human being by nature is able for empathic and compassionate communication. And this is the default standard that we may have. However, in a situation where something else is happening and we are hurting others or we are hurting ourselves, it is just like a bug in the system. It is just a mistake that we make because right now we are not able to satisfy our needs and feelings and emotion in a more constructive way. And in order to help us with this situation and to navigate through different communication situations that we may encounter in our lives, he created an approach based on 4 steps. And these are 4 simple steps. First step is the pure observation of facts without any judgment. So just to give you an example from the office. Let's say today morning I have received an email, and a pure observation of fact would be, well, they clearly disagree with me. However, when I say things like, well, are they out of the mind? This was not an observation of fact. This was already a judgment. The second step is finding out the feeling that a given situation brings up in myself. So, for example, in my case, maybe this email made me feel angry. Then the third step, and I ask myself, why that feeling and not something else? Which of my global universal needs was not met?
Was it the need for support? Was it the need for cooperation? Maybe it was a need for appreciation. And the last step, which is not always mandatory, is creating a request. So at this point, I should make a stand and express my request on a given situation. So what I would like to happen. And we can use this language when we speak to ourselves and we want to state our position and find out our position in a given situation. And we can also use it when we talk to other people. So for example, whenever we ask somebody, so if I understand correctly, you want this and that because you feel like this and like that. This is one of the strategies that Rosenberg was suggesting can be pretty helpful and successful in communication. So I highly recommend that we all try to make a little difference but our daily action, and from time to time, let's speak like a giraffe. Why not? Let's have some fun.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Now we are definitely more aware why we should be careful about our thoughts, behaviors and feelings. And now, Sanj getting on the rooftop, and please stay calm. Sanj will tell you more about the upcoming disaster and actually more about the call for action, what we can do about this to avoid the disaster. Sanj, roof is yours.
Hi, I'm Sanj. I work for CBRE around 2 years now, and the reason why I get to this topic is because around three months ago I was with my friends in hot discussion about climate change in general. So at that moment, the reason why I started learning about climate change in general is because of the misinformation happening around in social media in general. So I would like to start from the very simple question: why is the world warming up? Just imagine for a second that our planet is a greenhouse, and every second to that greenhouse, the huge amount of energy from sun smashes against the window, and it basically, some of those energy passes through, some of them is left out on the space. But in general, the temperature inside the greenhouse is stabilized all the time. But for the last 100 years of industrial change, the greenhouse gas emissions warmed up our temperature, and the factors like energy, transportation, industry, food production, and misuse of our nature increased the temperature inside the atmosphere, and that created another layer of the roof, which at the same time causes the growth of the temperature inside the greenhouse, and basically the atmosphere becomes not livable for the nature. So 5 years ago, 195 countries came to an agreement that we will take care of our nature, cut the emission by half by 2030, and by 2050 we will reach net zero. But looking at this map, you can see that there is not much change has been done to act against climate change. The darker the color gets in the map is the worse we are doing. The next thing I would like to show is the map, the temperature change for the last 10,000 years. And let's just zoom out for a second to 3 million years. What kind of change in the temperature has been happening? So it hasn't been changing much between the +2 degrees and -4. -4 is the degree where the ice age has happened. So if we have a look on the future, what will happen after 2020 if we won't act against climate change in general, the increase will be huge, and eventually the atmosphere will not be livable for the future generation. So what we have done to our nature. Let's have a look just some of the well-known data in 2020. And so for example, if we look back and 10, 15 years ago, when there was first evidence about climate change, it was basically only evidence was about Arctic ice, that it's decreasing by amount, melting down. But now there is no sea ice, no Arctic sea ice in summers. The millions of tons of Greenland is melting down. The West Antarctica is reaching the tipping point. So if that was the only evidence, now in 2020 we have coral reef is bleaching, and on the left of the screen you can see the healthy coral reef. On the right side of the screen you can see what happened after the bleaching. And I guess I don't have to explain how important is it to our nature, the coral reef. The next thing I would like to show is also the headlines from 2020 summer. Only this summer happened a massive fire happened in Siberia, in Australia, in California. So the next part also is kind of a worrying part, because Amazon is also known as lung of Earth, is suffering and it's weakening and may start emitting carbon in 15 years. Imagine what will happen if Amazon will be emitting instead of consuming the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. There is flood happening in 2020 in single year there in 3 countries. 1/3 of Bangladesh being covered with flood, China and India. The next part I would like to show is also the air pollution. Almost half of Poland's electricity comes from carbon power plants, and that makes for Poland really difficult to make the transition to the eco-friendly environment. The next thing I would like to show is also the business and government side. We cannot keep on telling only the bad news, but there are some good news as well. Recently, America has rejoined Paris Agreement in 2021. The next thing is about Sweden, for example. They have one of the biggest wind farms. Morocco became the leader in solar power manufacturing. Norway is leading our climate fight by increasing the sales in electric vehicles. There are so many new electric cars has been released only last year. And also the cycling infrastructure is improving in Europe. Only last year, 1 billion euros has been spent on improving the cycling infrastructure in Europe. So before I start the next presentation, around 2 months ago, I was posting on Instagram a voting with the voting buttons asking who in society should be doing more in terms of climate change, a government and business, or an individual. As you can see on the screen, most of the people are so much tend to nowadays to avoid their own individual responsibility and tell, hey, there is a government and business has to do those things, but I'm not responsible for it. But because of this, I would like to also show how much you can do from the individual perspective. This map is called basically Sankey diagram. Sol Griffin is an American engineer who developed this diagram. If we have a look in general, this diagram, it basically looks like a bunch of spaghetti. But if we have a closer look at this diagram, we can divide it into 3 parts. First part is basically the energy source, where it comes from. The next one is energy conversion. From the energy source, how it gets converted to the energy use. And then the next last part is energy use. How do we use the energy? This diagram in general basically shows how the energy flows from the source to the energy use. And if we have a look in general, from the left, converting the energy source to the eco-friendly one, for example, biomass energy, nuclear energy, hydroelectric energy, wind energy, or solar energy. In general, even if they change the energy source, that will cut only the 20% of our problem, because some of the energy, like petroleum or gas, is basically consumed straight away from the source. Like, for example, car problem will not be handled by the government. That your individual car has to be replaced by an eco-friendly car by yourself. I don't want to talk too much about what exactly you should be doing to act against climate change. I just would like to show some of my personal examples that I've been doing. In terms of food, I started eating less meat on a daily basis and ordering less, because if you order from a restaurant that also is basically using more paper and then more transportation energy to deliver to your house and all. In terms of clothes, I started looking for more recycled products, like this shirt, for example. Or in terms of, for example, waste management, I started doing the trash segregation more carefully. Nowadays, for example, what I notice in our office in CBRE, there is a lot of people who are not handling the trash management correctly. Basically, what we need to do is always concentrate and choose an eco-friendly product. To understand this, we need to step back to the principle from microeconomics, for example, the basic principle of demand and supply. The more we demand those eco-friendly products, the market of eco-friendly products will improve. Thank you for watching. By the end of this presentation, you can find some useful links to read and watch. I would like to end this presentation by one of the powerful quotes from my country. If I will be clean and you will be clean, the community will be clean as well.
Sanj, needless to say, I'm with you. Let's do it together. We'll save the planet. The last but not least, Salvatore Montesano, joining the rooftop for the last presentation for today about the new way of thinking, seeing things from different perspectives and embracing the change. Let's listen to Salvatore.
Hello everyone, I'm Salvatore, team leader, and I took part in the previous edition about CBRE Talks, and this year I would like to share with you another topic. Actually, it's a topic that came to me. I was sitting at home and I was watching a YouTube channel, and there was a song about Robin Schulz, All We Got. And while I was enjoying the song, then I start to see how many inspirations were there in that song. That's why I start to think that why not to share with my colleague, with the CBRE. So basically, you will see in a while a movie. There is a sport competition here, in which there are two girls that are competing for reach the first place. However, you can see that there are coaches as well, that they are competitors because they know each other. Even the dogs are competing each other's. And the girls put all the efforts to reach higher. There are expectations from the coach, there are expectations for the people, there is a pressure. All these external factors leads people fail sometimes. And this is actually what happened to the girls. The girls put all their efforts, their skills, but then they fail. Why this happen? Sometimes, happen because we lose our emotion, we lose our energy, we feel frustrated, and all the environment feel frustrated as well. So then what? How we can deal with that? Is there a way that need to be all the time in this way, or there is another way that we can think the things? Well, basically yes, because when you reach a breaking point in your life, then there is something that you can consider. Maybe new approach, a new way, exactly, new way of thinking, new way of see the things from another perspective. And this is what happened with this girl. They start to consider another way. They care each other, they did the performance together. Of course, in a sport competition never happened that two girls, competitors, stay together with one common performance. But if you translate in our private life and the one business words, this can help us, because sometimes we are going directly with our road, we are not considering the others, and we are just following our habits. But this doesn't reach any further achievement. So, how we can deal with this new way of thinking? Well, basically, we need first of all consider to take a step back. We need to abandon for a while hate, competition, whatever we have in our life, and consider in a new way, new approach. If you think about the current situation that we are facing with the COVID time, this leads us to think in another way, to live the life, for example. Because we are not ready, we change our habits, and we need to find a different resolution in our life. So then how we can think a new way, how we can consider things from another perspective. Of course, we need to consider a step back in our life, because if we are staying in all our position, we won't achieve more. But we need to consider sometimes step back. We need to consider also that we failed with one approach and we can consider another. And this time with the pandemic situation teach a lot, because we were not used to live with the restriction, and now we need to change our approach. So basically, we need to consider a new point of view, new way of thinking, and we need to embrace the change. We need to leave our comfort zone and think outside of box. And effectively, how we can do this? We don't need to find a complicated solution. Just, you have some small example from our colleague that they had a talk before me. They just provide some example. We are restricted. We cannot travel around the world, but we can send postcard, as Marta said. We cannot, for example, help support the people in Africa. We cannot go there personally, but we can help, we can support from Warsaw, from Poland, from our apartment, let's say. And also, there are many challenges in the world, climate change, but we cannot do many things with this big problem. However, what we can do, we can change our small habits on daily basis with small micro resolution. So as you can see, there are simple things that you can, and this is a new way that I was talking at the beginning. New way of thinking, new way to face the situation. And this is what I would like to share with you today, and I would like to take with you at home. Maybe you can take a small part, but it will make our life easy. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you so much. That's it. We have just completed the 5th edition of CBRE Talks. As in previous editions, fantastic stories, full power, great inspirations. I appreciate this so much, and thank you every single speaker that was on the roof today with us. I would like also to thank Jarosław Schulz, who helped us prepare the speaker, polish the stories, and actually coach during the recording day. Let me thank also other colleagues from our company, Marta Tomaszewska, Karolina Kokot, Katarzyna Świderska, and Madzia Sękowska, for everything you did to make it possible to deliver this show to our colleagues. And of course, Salvatore, who helped me coordinate all the logistics. Man, grazie mille, you are priceless. I trust in a few months we're gonna ask you again, join the next edition of CBRE Talks. No doubt you will do so, and new great stories will come. But for now, get inspirations from today's session. The stage and the life is yours. So, welcome on the rooftop. Your time, take the action. Thank you, stay healthy, stay safe. Okay, the show is over. Now it's time to ask some questions. The chat is yours, all the speakers are at your disposal. Let's have interesting Q&A session.